podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
It's a new week, it's a new opponent, but somehow there's more controversy. Let's start the show. You are watching Bit of an Animal, the South African Rugby Union podcast here on the Global Gain Lines. A lot to talk about this week, as per usual. Unfortunately, we don't have the full pod squad / bomb squad, as Lisa B is not with us this week. So it's an Oaks podcast, and I am happy to report that since the last time we did the Oaks assessment, I actually played a game of paddle. Weirdly, got a chance to do it. Wasn't arranged at all. Just saw a random message on a WhatsApp group saying, come play paddle for free if you want to. And I went and I played quite a few games. I think I played for like 2.5 hours, according to my Garmin. And that's despite the fact that I've got a dislocated metatarsal on my left foot, but I'm recovering quite well. Great to see you guys, but let's get stuck in on the first topic of the week. We'll go to you, Jean. Italy. We overcame them in Turin at the stadium whose sponsor we won't mention.
Home of
Juventus Football Club, yeah.
yes, those guys. I don't watch soccer. Yeah, I think firstly, let me say I think if anybody truly wants to see the difference between the difference emotion makes to a rugby fan, watch any test that you have investment in twice. The first time you watch it, it's emotions all over the place. I came away from it. We were camping, so we ended up watching the game like half in the pub, half on a tablet. And I came away from the game with this weird feeling of it was such a messy game, and I had this deep feeling of like this was a bad advertisement for rugby. Like I am not against the red cards. I am not against protecting players, but in general, it was a bad advertisement for rugby. Like it was a messy game. And then I reviewed the game again earlier today, and I was like, "Wow, your emotion played a really big part in forming that sentiment because it felt messy and it felt urgent when it was live." And watching it again, it was sort of like, it wasn't that messy. It was actually, there was good play. Um, and then I just want to give credit to Italy. Italy really researched, they researched our team. They researched what they're going to do, how to get under our skin. Massive props to whoever their scrum coach is for finding a chink in our armor. I'm sure Don was um, planning exactly how many sheep he was going to name after Italian front rowers in order to slaughter them as soon as he's back home. But yeah, massive credit to them. They ran excellent moves. They kept putting us under pressure. Their kicking game was spot on. And I think their kicking game worked a lot better because they're a more kicking prone team in terms of kicking for contest than France, who we saw the previous week trying to kick for contest and it didn't really work out. It got very messy. There's been some criticism of Andre Pollard, but I think he actually steered the team well in that period where, we didn't have scrum dominance to rely on. There were sort of moments where we had momentum, moments where we didn't have momentum. Then we were on the up, then Italy was on the up. It was knock on here, knock on there. And I think he tried to take the easiest, most efficient ways to get us on the front foot. The little grubber kicks through, little dinks over the top. I also think that this was the first game where Morne van der Berg really impressed me. His defensive prowess was amazing. He played the role of catch-up defender. In my mind's eye, especially watching it today, I saw Faf de Klerk circa 2019, 2020, being that sort of guy to hang back, and then as the attack shifts to one side, you see him just shoot out to cover the space behind. And then obviously man of the match to Damian Willemse. Every time a kick went into the backfield, he just popped up. It was like he was spawning there. Like he just spawned there out of thin air. He had an amazing game, really an amazing game. And then yeah, just the sacrifice and the guts of the team. Like that was guts. It was 100% guts. And especially from the replacements coming on, trying to fix it. And Rassi said in the post-match conference, everyone who was there they were sitting on the sidelines, they were sitting in the locker room. How do we fix this? What's the plan? Because the plan we had is going out the window. Plan B has gone out the window. Plan C has gone out the window. How do we fix this? And I think that just speaks to the cohesiveness of this team. It's really amazing to be able to problem solve something like that on the fly. But yeah, big ups to Italy. I'm holding fingers crossed. They're my official Six Nations team for next year, and I think they deserve at least the third place spot next year.
Yeah, I was impressed by Italy. It was us getting a red card again, but them also playing really well. I think that if we had stayed at 15 men throughout the game and maybe caught a yellow card here and there, because that type of thing does happen, there are mistakes that happen, misinterpretations, and then I was a little concerned, and I've seen this critiques other places as well. I was concerned during the game that Marco van Staden made that mistake, kind of went for the ball, and then immediately when he got back on, he tried the same thing. So I was like, oh, guy, we all make mistakes, but let's not make the same mistake in the same 12 minutes. As it relates to Pollard, I just checked now, he's only 31. I mean, he feels like he's been around forever. I had to sort of double check. Because like I couldn't remember how old Cobus Reinach was a few weeks ago. Because he doesn't look 35, Cobus Reinach. But Pollard also older 31, because I mean he's played a lot of rugby at different places. He's been came through the VP youth system, moved almost immediately when he turned pro to the Bulls, won a junior World Cup all the way back then when I watched it live with a friend at Newlands. And obviously went overseas, played in France, played in Japan, and then played in England, and now he's back in South Africa. But at 31, he's still got a lot to give the team. He's not the same play. I wouldn't say we're getting peak Andre Pollard, but still there's a lot of value in him, having him around in the team. Yeah, I've always liked Mone van der Berg, but this is my interpretation of it. I thought that Damien Willemse, I really like the fact that he can play at a high level at fly off. People forget he can play at fly off because he played a lot of fly off in the last World Cup, I think, against Georgia. At fly off, inside center and fullback, but this was an incredible. He's obviously a deserved man in the match. Thembi Nkosi, ciao or buonasera. Your thoughts on the game?
I think you pretty much, the both of you covered most of it. But if I'm going to start somewhere, I'm going to start maybe with Italy. I think
Mm.
they really studied our gameplay. Like they knew that we were going to come at them this way, and they made sure that they counteracted. I mean, it was kind of weird seeing South Africa being out scrummed. You don't see that a lot. I think mostly we were kind of like okay, so the red card. When when the red card happened, I think Rasi should have probably made the call again to take out Sia and replace him with Nokia. I think maybe that would have stabilized the first half a little bit more. But I kind of understand why he also didn't do that, because it was like, hey man, I took you out last game, and this game also I'm taking you out just because someone else made a mistake.
Mm.
I think if had Sia went out and Nokia got on a little bit earlier, maybe everything else would have kind of stabilized itself a little bit better, because it's kind of like a workhorse. But credit to it. I mean Italy. I mean they played really well for most of the game. They actually made us kind of. I don't want to say okay. Let's be honest. We were kind of like, what's going on? We're kind of like scared. We didn't think we were gonna lose, but they were them pushing us hard at.
Yeah, because the thing is that Bourne, Fenter, and Porthen aren't bad scrummages. Porthen in particular is still very young. So I think if we had stayed at 15 men and not lost Mostert, we probably would have had more of an arm wrestle at the scrum. But as soon as Mostert had to go and Ben Jason Dixon had to then get off the field to make space for who came on from the lock at that time for Mostert, Nero Nokia, like you mentioned earlier. And then on top of it, they sort of tried to stick with the front row with like Porthen and Bonfinter, but then they were under the cosh, they were under the pressure. So Gerard Steenkamp, very under heralded player. And then Wilco Low, a very much heralded player, came on, and that stabilized us. But at the same time, we were still a bit under pressure from the Italian scrum. So I think what's interesting is that leading up to this game, I looked at a lot of the previews from an Italian perspective, from a neutral perspective, and from a South African perspective. And everybody was saying, especially from a neutral and Italian perspective, is that Italy played the best possible team they could tactically and selection-wise in the Six Nations. And then in the June test, the mid-year test, they sort of mixed the team up a little, and they didn't send the strongest team to South Africa, similar to how France don't necessarily pick the strongest team for different reasons. And then even in this end of year series of test matches, they were also mixing up. But then for South Africa, they just went, what, like the whole Benetton team, or people who played for Benetton at one point, just everything. We're not messing around now. We're actually going to try and go for the win. And they came close. Like I said, if we'd stayed 15-15, I think the score, I think Italy would have still been in it. I don't think it's fair to say, maybe some people, I didn't see this anywhere, but some people might say, oh, Italy were in it because Africa disrupted themselves with another unfortunate red card. And the red card thing, we can unpack it now again even further, because it's a double red card. And again, permanent record, not even 20 minutes. Don't even go back to 15 after 20 minutes. So this time we go to 14 from the 11th minute, which is incredible that we actually won. The thing that really hurt me about it is I was really looking forward to seeing Ethan Hooker and Moody play link up at center. Two young guys, very athletic. We saw Moody run around the Italian players. So how much more would we have seen that? So unfortunately, Ethan Hooker then had to do the team thing and shift to the wing. Well, the weird thing is that on this podcast, Tim Nkosi, you were the one who actually mentioned that you look forward to seeing that as potentially the Springbok combination of the future, moving from the Damien Dale Andy, you look on your arm. We've gone past that now, and it's more now Damien Dale Andy and JC Krill with Estays and sort of mixing in. So credit to you for that. Because when you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Moody is like slightly more experienced. Ethan Hooker's come through more recently, played inside center a lot for the Baby Box, and then at the Sharks, because of the inside center options, he shifted to the wing and still played fantastic there. Scored a try in this game. So that hurt me. And obviously I wanted to see, even though Benjamin Dixon doesn't play for the Sharks, he's a valuable player. He's 27. I want to see the people who are playing as understudies to Peter Steph Toy, the Vincent Tutukas and the Ben Jason Dixons. I want to see them get proper game time, and that sort of robbed us of that opportunity as well. So a lot has been said about the red card, John. Are there any further things you'd like to unpack about it?
Oh, there. Let's get this podcast cancelled, shall we? No, I'm just kidding. So, first of all, I want to just draw a distinction quickly. I think in last week's case, there's a lot more understanding, because in that case, even though Luet went as low as he did, right? He couldn't go any lower. His knee was on the ground and everything. I think last week's case, because the shoulder went up to the head directly, like it wasn't a glancing shot or this or that. It was, you could see on impact, like immediately it's hitting the head. I think there's more understanding from a lot of people. It's like, oh, well, he's touching the head and he's not rapping, and we don't like it, but we understand. In this one, I don't understand. I don't understand really the way it's been looked at. And I understand that perhaps the officials at that point making the decision didn't have all the camera angles, but I saw a reverse camera angle today, and you can clearly see point of contact is the chest, right? So he's if he's not rapping, and you can say that the intent there is never to rap, right? Because his arm is behind him. As many other people have said, if you're a player, your impact arm is never going to wrap, and your other arm is going to be the one you're wrapping on. Because if you're wrapping both, the natural tendency is to put your head out there. So then you are going to do head-on-head contact, and you're going to end up with a red. So I think in terms of officiating, where the frustration originates is last week we had this example set. This week we're getting a different example. And I think in this case, it should have been referred to the bunker. This is not a decision that you need to make. Like they're saying the action is always illegal. But if I'm not 100% sure that it's always illegal, how can I make that decision, right? And in my mind, the full red is reserved for acts of unsportsmanlike conduct. Call it thuggery, assault, whatever you want. The idea is there is intent to hurt the player, right? Um, if that's the case, yes, go to a full red. If I'm striking another player in the head, if I'm assaulting another player by grabbing their genitals or something like that, and it's clearly visible, yes, by all means, pull out the red, send me off. We'll understand. We won't like it, but we'll understand. In this case, it's a tackle. It's a tackle that looks bad. And then later in the game, we had the same incident with Wilco Low. Wilco Low goes in to a clear out, yet we go to the full review standing there for a rugby incident, right? And I think I don't think the ref had the control of the game he would have liked. I don't think he had the control of the game he would have liked. And I think we need to clarify what exactly is a full red and what exactly is a bunker red. And who has the authority to dole out which. Because it's confusing for us as fans. And if we are truly invested in growing the game, then we need to clarify these things so fans aren't confused. And then yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of other tackles that I would love to get feedback on, because we saw Sia Kolisi go down with a hit to the neck, wasn't reviewed. We saw Marco van Staden go down with a hit to the neck, wasn't reviewed. And yeah, I mean, Ethan Hooker, by my account, had a great game. He had some great aerial contests. He made great defensive reads. Moody on defense was fantastic. But like you said, we don't get to see that center partnership now because of the team having to shift. And I think the spectacle of a 15-man Springbok and 15-man Italy game would have been something to behold. And I think it would have been good for Italian rugby, who somehow are the losers in this, despite playing an amazing game.
Yeah, I think the talking points coming out of it is all this controversy similar to last week, whereas we should really be talking about how good Italy look. In fact, in many ways, despite the fact that Australia are going to be hosting the next World Cup, I think Australia are moving down, Italy are moving up. Italy seem to be doing more with less resources in Australia because of the sports landscape there with rugby league and that men's volleyball they call Australian rules football, Aussie rules football. That's so popular there for weird reasons. I think they might be intoxicated. And then rugby union is sort of falling behind. But yeah, I'm extremely reluctant to be critical of refs because I've sort of been in environments where people just every time their team football otherwise loses, it's because of the ref. So I always very cautious about that, but in this instance, I need more clarity. I would have, similar to last week, even last week, I felt like our colleague Lisa B said, like straight red, no 20-minute red should be like punch the guy in the face or like eye gouged him or like grabbed him in an appropriate way where you can prove it. Oh, Murphy. But it's like guys, you're killing me now, seriously, because we saw that I in the game I didn't see the incident where it was slid up, but even this week I would have been like either bunker or like 20-minute red immediately. But this whole jump to immediate straight red, he's trying to tackle the guy again. Another player, another of our players is tackling him, so everybody's going down. Look, I understand that rugby has evolved, and we need to tweak the rules so that it makes it more competitive. I appreciate the fact that now in rugby, smaller players like Gio Applon, like Chisholm Colby, like Kurtley Arendse have more of a place and are more of more of a threat in the game and more prominent in the game because the rules have been tweaked from sort of the archaic 30 years ago where it was just like pick the biggest team and then the Bulls were like, oh, we're going to pick I forget what his first name is, but Fouché that was the slowest fly off you'd ever seen, because they were like, he's big, he's almost the size of a open side flanker. So but we're tweaking it in ways, and we need to tweak it a bit more now to find out exactly what things are because it's taking away a bit of the spectacle. Demikosi, your thoughts?
Uh, when it comes down to it, I understand why it was given. But my thing okay, I think this is more of a question than anything else is, can we please clarify what mitigating factors are? Because I'm assuming if if one person is already tackling another person and then there's a third person coming into that, shouldn't that be at least considered as some sort of mitigation? Because I understand, like John said, when you're tackling someone, obviously the shoulder that you're hitting with is not going to wrap immediately. You're going to use your other hand to grab him and turn him. Then that's when the other hand comes in and wraps to put him down. So you're always most likely starting and hitting into, like a tackle with the shoulder. It's just a technique of how you hit with the shoulder, then turn him. But so yeah, I thought about it. I looked at the incident and I thought, okay, if there was head contact as the TMO said, and I think then you can say it's a red card. It's kind of like last week. Then I would agree it's a red card. But on this particular event, I don't think it was even like, I think at best it's like a rugby incident. Because yes, maybe you can also go as far as saying is that he was high. But then I'm also looking at Monster. I'm like, he's bent. Like this is like a 2 meter man bent, and you're already saying this is high. Like what is the criteria that we're measuring this at? Like so I think my thing, I just want to know what mitigating factors are. Maybe let's elaborate on that meaning, and then maybe we can come back to whether it was a red card or not. Because I think there are mitigating factors. Yeah, this week and last week.
What was also weird last week was the ref was like more leaning towards like a yellow or 20-minute red, and then his assistants came and they almost like egged him on for like a full red. So the other incidents in this game that were controversial was that the medical doctor assigned to the game, he got an alert saying one of our players, Stenkamp, who had come on really to scrummage, his mouth guard had said he got a serious sort of knock, and the Springbok medical staff said their thing didn't beep, so there was a bit of a back and forth there. There were incidents in the game where Siya Kolisi tried to talk to the ref and some of the other captains when Siya Kolisi went off, saying like, "Hey, even Master tackling the Italian guy, they were saying like, but he's not going off for HIA." And then the guy got up, didn't go off for the HIA, and then not too long later, apparently, can't remember the specifics, but Jean, you watched the game again, apparently just like kicked a penalty or something. So if you really got knocked, shouldn't you go off for the HIA as well? So yeah, look, refereeing is not easy at the highest level. Uh, s- so so there's factors to that as well, but we need to set ourselves to a higher standard. Do you want to get in here, Jean?
Yeah, so look, the thing is, and I get like I remember saying last week, like if Ramos was hit in the back of the head, right, and if he was hit in the back of the head, he should be going for an HIA, and that's logical. And then during the week, my mind sort of in the background thought about it, and I've thanks to the weird way my brain is wired, I've done deep dives on like concussion and brain structure and symptoms of concussion. And the thing is, unless you're knocked out, right? And that is the typical thing that we see in rugby is if a player gets knocked out, they do that sort of arms out, backwards motion, falling, what they call clonic posturing.
Mhm.
And unless you're knocked out, you're not necessarily going to feel it. Now, the HIA is designed to pick up symptoms of head injury, such as memory loss, fuzziness, score interactions. And you can actually view the process on YouTube. They take you through it as if you're a player that's involved in it. Um, but I sort of get also that if the player, impacted in the head, because a player probably gets impacted, a player like a 10 on attack will be impacted every couple of minutes, right? So, how I'm sort of saying that the players built up to it, they've got a tolerance for it. So if he's not immediately sent off, I understand. But then also at the end of the day, you need to think now that player has received a significant amount of additional or more dangerous knocks. That's also going to have an impact. So I'm not sure how rugby as a community should approach this, because I do understand when people say, but okay, fine, if he's hit in the head, he needs to go for an HIA, because that logically makes sense. And I mean, we see the logic in that argument. I can also see the logic in saying, well, he's not showing symptoms, his mouth guard didn't trigger or whatever, but we're trying to eliminate a behavior. That doesn't mean because there isn't consequences that what the person did is right. So, I can understand both coins of the argument, but I think at the end of the day, what's causing the confusion and outrage is that there's no clarity. And it almost feels like we stepped away from the protocols we had in 2019, in 2021, 2020, 2021, where there was this clear process to say, right, if there's head contact, we start at red. If it's not head contact, we start at penalty and we work our way up. So it was very clear. For head contact, we start at the most severe outcome and then we work our way down. And if it's just a dangerous action, we start with a penalty and we work our way up, right? And it feels like we've stepped away from that. There was this clear process that worked, and it feels like that's been lost. Like we're not following it anymore, or I'm not seeing that it's followed. And as far as the match day doctor goes, I think that's something that needs to be cleared up, because the way I understand it is the match day doctor got his device said Steenekamp needed an HIA. Our doctor, I believe his name is Jerome Mampane, very nice guy. I had the opportunity to meet him once. His device showed nothing. So now we're not sure. And even the Italian doctor, because I was watching that and obviously I'd seen what people were saying on social media, so I paid attention. The Italian doctor was trying to tell the ref, but I understand what he is saying. His device is not picking up. And as Rassi alluded to in the post-match interview, the person who actually needed to come off was Kurtley Arendse for an HIA.
So
So
there
I
might
think,
have been device issues there as well.
yeah,
I will say though, shout out to Johan Grobler. Played the whole flipping game. I mean, this guy, there's so many options at different positions, at all positions for the Springboks. I read an article and then in the comments about him, about the fact that he was in a Springbok team and he got a game here and there, but then he supposedly, according to the comment section, lost his place to the mix of Marks, Bongi, but then obviously what's the
Marnus, isn't it?
Marnus,
That,
Marnus
yeah,
van der
Marnus, yeah.
Merwe, and then the Bulls guy who can play who's suspended now, who can play
Vessels.
yeah, Jan
Wissels.
Hendrik Wessels. So people are like, oh, he's behind these four. And then obviously when you look down at the comment section, people say, oh, clearly, yeah, Rassi doesn't rate him, and he's probably just not a good player. And they assessed him in the camp, and they gave him a game, and now he's not even in the camp. So clearly he's completely out. He played a full game. He played a full game. Um, the reality is with the South African coaching staff is they bring people in, they do that. They do assess the guy in camp. They do give him some game time. And then everybody, this happened with so many people. This happened recently with Vincent Tuka. People asking Vincent Tuka, why aren't you in the Springbok setup? And they were like, no, I got homework, because they were watching me on TV. They were watching me live in the stands, and then they got to see me close up. And Rassi often says, we want to see this guy close up in camp, and they want to see him play. And then they give you like a breakdown, like a report saying, look, this is what we're seeing. This is what we need. This is the game plan we're moving towards for Australia. These are the aspects we need to work on. And we feel maybe it's best you work on it with your franchise in out of the spotlight than in the sort of glare of playing for the Springboks and that type of thing. So I was very impressed with Ron because we need depth. So yeah, but obviously I'm quite keen to see Jan Hendrik Wessels get a run. That's why the suspension of him is so annoying because he's really good at both positions at hooker and at prop and loose at prop, and he's incredibly explosive. He's incredibly fast for that type of player. Other players that I'm going to just quick shout out had good games before we move on was Libak was solid off the bench. Grant Williams scored a try again. Kwacha Kwacha enjoys like smashing people this season. Remember,
Listen, I need to know. I need to know what Italian guy said something to Quacha before the match because, like, I have never seen Quacha that angry. Like, he was just. I think if they said murder is legal, someone would have died.
oh man, the thing about Kwacha is like he was a superstar at sevens level, and then he said, "Look, I'm gonna try 15s," and people were like, "No, bro, you're too small," and he proved everybody wrong. What a player! What a heart! I mean, bulked up in a very mature way. Um, RG Snyman coming off the bench at the 44th minute and making an impact once again. Andre Esterhuizen playing from the 26th minute, helping to show up the scrum when there were scrums as well. Well done to them.
Mhm.
Okay,
Playing
so
flock again.
from one southern hemisphere, sorry, my bad. Yeah, one southern hemisphere win to an unfortunate southern hemisphere loss. Thembinkhosi's all yellow shoes went down to the Palms at Twickenham. It's so weird. It's like we can't write this stuff. Whole season Timmy goes is like, don't nobody lose to England. Don't lose to England. Why would you lose to England? Oh, by the way, I kind of support the New Zealand also. I quite like New Zealand. And if New Zealand went and lost to England, oh Timmy Kosi, razor out.
I think he needs to. I think at this point, there's nothing that's gonna save him. But yeah, oh, what a terrible game for. Like, I think it comes down to all season they've been saying where New Zealand have been playing good parts, and then the rest of the game was just kind of horrible. And I think this was the game where the good part were like the first 20 minutes. Then after that, everything just fell apart. I think they scrambled well. Especially in the first half, especially when England was attacking, they scrambled well. Then Ford saw that, okay, fine, we can't go through them, so let's just keep going to the what is this, doing drop goals, so to keep like scoreboard pressure. And I thought that kept England in the game. And New Zealand probably thought that second half starts and we're just gonna demolish all of them. But again, the second half start was the same as like the Scotland game where the first 20 minutes was kind of like, what are you guys doing? I don't see kind of your game plan, and England are kind of on top. And when Pollack and his friends came on, changed the whole game. It just blew them away. Like, I think, when you're waiting for someone, or you're just kind of waiting for a miracle to happen and it doesn't. It felt like that. And I don't want to say that they're kind of like giving up, but it felt like they're giving up. It was a bad
Yeah,
performance from New Zealand.
I, 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 I understand. I understand what you're saying. Like, um, in the first half, I felt it was a decent contest, but there were some worrying signs. Um, and then in the second half, I started getting the sort of sinking feeling for New Zealand, where I was like, even before England took the lead, it was sort of like you guys are slipping out of the match, like you're no longer in the driver's seat or fighting to be in the driver's seat. I think, and there's certainly a lot of speculation that England is perhaps the team to challenge the Springboks. And I will say this, if history is anything to go by, the 2023 Rugby World Cup semi-final shows that, well, number one, Andre Pollard, yes, there is in fact a lot of beef. And number two, they can challenge us. They've certainly been upping their scrumming stocks. They've got a lot of young talent in the front, and their kicking game over the past year I think is probably the only kicking game to really actually challenge us. There's been a lot of talk about New Zealand's kicking game. I don't think their kicking game is where it needs to be. And I think the fact that such a large part of New Zealand and their rugby identity is against kicking, whether it be especially tactical kicking in a match, um, I think that sort of holds them back, is from fully embracing what a kick can bring you. A good placed kick is something that can crack open a defense. It can put you really in an advantageous position. And it's sort of funny to think that way when you have moments like Damian McKenzie against Scotland, putting in the most ridiculous 50-22 we've seen this year. That's an excellent tactical kick. That's what we're talking about. And if we're talking about box kicks, you've got a guy that can box kick. The problem is you're not setting up the chase correctly. If you're going to go for up and unders, you need the guys to chase. You need to run your escort game. It's all these little details that we as the Springboks take excessively seriously. We're never just sending Colby. We're never just sending Arendse. We've got at least one center and at least one forward, two steps behind them. So if they get the tap back, there's a guy. If they manage to get the ball, we've got someone to go over. No one's ever alone. When New Zealand does it, it's sort of like the person can get isolated really quickly, but they expect him to get the ball and make magic. And I think England took that magic opportunity completely away from them. Like they smothered it. Um, and yeah, look, Henry Pollock, I know a lot of people say he's in Afrikaans it's windgat.
Mm.
He's a windgat laaitie. But it's undeniable the kid's got talent, right? The kid's got talent. And in a way, I sort of enjoyed his little sneer that he gave during the haka. And I know they'd said, listen, we're going to do something to respond to the haka, to accept this challenge. And I respect that from England to say, listen, it's on. We're doing this. And again, the previous time they did it, they beat New Zealand. They kicked them out of a Rugby World Cup in the 2019 semi-final when they did the whole V formation. And again, a pretty famous smirk there by Mr. Shoulder Charge himself, Owen Farrell. So I sort of like the gutsiness of England to say, yeah, you don't like us, but we like that you don't like us. We're going to play into that. So yeah.
The fact that this was a competitive game, I really enjoyed, because the thing is that New Zealand only took the lead at the 12th minute, but England had a lot of chances ahead of that, and then they fluffed it. And then I was concerned that, is this going to go like the way of the first half of Scotland when New Zealand beat Scotland? Yes, Scotland made a comeback in the second half, but it looked like New Zealand were just clicking into gear. Certain things did happen. I think it's of a combination of England sticking in there. There was a lot of criticism, including on the URC Rewind WhatsApp group of our Irish colleagues saying stuff like, "Oh, why did he pick George Ford? What's his name? Borthwick is fraudulent. Is a fraudulent coach and stuff like that." And I'm also a big fan of Finn Smith, so I thought, okay, what's going to happen here? Then New Zealand sort of got into their groove. Certain aspects hurt New Zealand. I think they, like you said, they were technically naive. Scott Barrett didn't look up to it. Yes, they are missing arguably the best of the three Barretts, or Jody Barrett at inside center. Losing Cam Roigard, when Cam Roigard did that turn on the left foot and then kicked it 50-22, I was like, yeah. New Zealand gonna put the screw on England. But England hung in there. They had the belief. They had the POM squad. I'm gonna have to trademark this. They just keep imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Um, England, England were obviously very serious about winning this game because they didn't put a mic at the haka, so you can't hear the haka in the stadium. And on top of it, the crowd was singing through the haka as well, so that was good. So I like that type of thing, and I'm super glad this was a competitive game, and it worked out competitive in such a way that New Zealand lost. Do I feel Razor needs to get sacked? Actually, no, because I think if they tweak the team, I think the best way for them to be competitive for the next World Cup is if they tweak the team in such a way that they evolve it still, keep Cam Roigard, maybe get a proper understudy so the drop off isn't massive. Because I mean, Ratama is not a bad player, but like he didn't look the same quality of player. Um,
I'd go for that
Is
ginger kid above
Moanga
Ratimo.
coming back in a certain way? Yeah. The ginger kid is the dude with the Irish name. What's his name?
Finley
Uh,
Christie there?
yeah, Finley
Finley
Christie. Yeah.
Christie.
So he's pretty solid. We'll see how he also pans out. They've got a wealth of ability. Going into this year, I was kind of saying like your senior locks are only Scott Barrett and the guy whose name starts with a T. I forget the Samoan dude, tall dude, the one that plays for the Blues. But after him, it's just like extremely young oaks, and Holland came literally over from the Netherlands to play rugby. Yes, Holland, Lord, Derry, they have potential, but they look young. It's like us picking Lord de Jager at 23. We didn't really do that. We have like grizzled veteran locks, and in the engine room you need that. The Sharks have like three super young, super highly potential locks in Emil van Heerden, Corné Raal, and Coetzee Leroux, but they're not playing for the Springboks now because you kind of only play them in an emergency, that type of thing, if everybody else is hurt. But luckily, we have a bigger lock stock to pick from, including Janssen van Rensburg, who just recently turned from France to the Bulls. Credit
So
to Jean. So Temikosi, only three losses this season. You lost to Argentina, you lost to South Africa, and now you lost to England. You're playing 13 games across this season. You're gonna murder Wales next week. Sorry, producer Lee. It's just like don't put money on it. Like it's a foregone conclusion.
you heard it
Um,
here. Wales to beat New Zealand. Upset confirmed.
I was probably like good odds, so maybe like punt or something. Yeah, Temikosi, are you phoning Warren Gatlin anytime this week?
I don't think it's like a bad season.
Yeah.
Although the thing is, I think the rugby in general holds New Zealand to a higher standard than everyone else, and I think that alone means like they're supposed to be the invisible titan. So if you're losing like more than one game a season, it's kind of be like, okay, that means that someone outsmarted you not once, not twice, three times. So clearly you are not as invincible as you are supposed to be. But then again, when it comes to Razor, I think the only thing he needs to fix is that when he kicks the ball, when they're kicking the ball, they just need to know what they're doing with it. Like, are we doing a kick chase? Are we actually trying to retain the ball? Are we trying to kick it out to get to territory? I think they just kick the ball and no one even chases. Like my problem is that no one is even chasing. Then I'm like, why did you kick the ball? Are you just kicking it so to like get the ball away from your pressure? Are you just relieving pressure? Just like, you know what, we're in our 22, we can't go further, so let's just kick the ball into their 22. Maybe it'll bounce out. No one is not really gonna check. We're not even gonna put pressure on whoever's gonna catch the ball on the side. So I don't know. I think if their kicking game actually has some sort of strategy that would change their whole entire game because they have the players. So I don't know. They need to Razor
Here's
and his whole entire group needs to know figure out what they're doing.
here's my question for you, Tembi and Kosi. Do you think there's an attitude problem in certain elements of the New Zealand camp?
Do you mean like the players
Maybe
or the
like a
coaches?
play.
So okay, so let me elaborate.
Mhm.
I've noticed a trend, right? Since New
Okay.
Zealand has played us, where I believe they got one card in one of the matches, right? Or we got 1-1. Um, they've been getting pretty solid yellow cards about since then in every match. And there's like this trend of repeat offenders. And what I mean is from getting warnings for being in our players' faces to, doing collapsing malls, things like that.
Mm.
Has that composure that New Zealand used to have of saying we're not only the best team, but we're the most disciplined team. And I know there's guys that's going to come out of the woodwork and say Richie McCaw never entered a ruck the legal way, well, how many times was he penalized? Right? And I get it. Rugby is a game of what you can get away with. That's all of sport. But I do feel in a sense, and that's why I'm asking Temi Corson, because he's sort of the New Zealand guy, is do they maybe have a discipline and a sort of attitude problem where the players still feel like we're New Zealand, the Golden Boys, will never get punished, but then shocked Pikachu face, I got punished.
Okay, so I don't think it's like a discipline problem. I think it's more of like a desperation problem. You know, when you're just desperate to get everything right and you start making silly mistakes, and it's like that Cody Taylor when he got yellow carded because he took the hand. I mean, put his hand and took the ball out of the head. That is why did you do that? That
Yeah.
you knew that if they see that, it's an obvious foul, but he went for it anyway. So I think the fact that they are not as invincible anymore, they're under a lot of pressure. And I think the desperation to, you know what, let's get everything right. Let's always, I think that pressure, I think they have a lot. Yeah, you might say, yeah, let's say they have a lot of pressure. And you can see that in how they play because they're now like desperate, forcing everything to come out. So I think, yeah, you're right.
They're still a solid team. They've got two really good front rows. Cody Taylor, that was very silly from them. The fact that I say they got two really good front rows, their replacement hooker didn't seem to be able to scrum that well and was also suffering in the line out. So those are two important things for Hooker. He's not the biggest guy either. For me, for my money, like I said, besides the two senior guys, they've got very young locks, so that's a bit of a concern. They seem to have a lot of options at flank in different positions, eighth man and that type of thing. Scrum off for me, they've got one really good scrum off and a bunch of really good ones. Fly off, it's going to be interesting to see what Moanga can do because obviously Razor wanted Lester Fainga back, and that worked out fantastic. He's a good player. He couldn't win this game, but he was one of the stand-up players in this game. So Razor obviously wants Moanga back, and if they have Moanga back, then they have Barrett, Moanga, and Mackenzie. But the thing is that Moanga can come back from Japan, and he is coming back. But he could get injured, so you still got to use Mackenzie and I mean, there's talk about Ruben Love, but I don't watch Super Rugby to the extent that Temikosi does. So I can't really speak to that. Besides Jody Barrett, I don't know who the inside centers are, like the guy who started this week and that type of thing. They've changed since Razor took over. They've changed the wings a lot because they started with Mark Telea and Sivu Rees. Fullback, not okay. If you go with Jordan at fullback, it's more of like a Apaleli Fassi type fullback as opposed to like a still a good player, but different sort of strengths and weaknesses as opposed to like a Damien Willemse sort of orchestrator type fullback and everything horses for courses in terms of things. But the thing is, I still come back to the fact that they have time and they're probably going to work on some stuff. And it's New Zealand, so the country's going to be on your back. One interesting aspect that I saw in an article this week is saying that New Zealand is somewhat suffering to a lesser degree of what Australia is suffering is that a lot of players are going for the rugby league money. So they've got a slightly smaller playing pool. So that's also something to keep an eye on. Temikosi, are you related to Mark Talia? Because his dad's Xhosa.
I hope so. Then I can finally.
The weird thing about Mark Talia is that they keep mentioning that his dad is Xhosa and his mom is Samoan, but they don't explain anything besides that. Like, how did they meet? What was he in New Zealand? Was she in South Africa? And what's his name? There's no pictures. I've gone down this rabbit. I'd like to interview Mark Talia's dad on
my,
this
my
YouTube page.
my assumption is that they will have to have met in Samoa because he ended
Yeah.
up playing for New Zealand. So it's clearly because I'm thinking if he was in South Africa, would he have played for South Africa and New Zealand? Which one would you choose? I think he would have went to South. Nah,
Yeah.
you would have went to New Zealand.
Like there's no information there, but I'm willing to put money down that Mark Talia's dad played for the Border Bulldogs because they all did. Everybody played, even I played for the Border Bulldogs. All right, we move on swiftly to a bunch of really interesting games, but we've really elaborated on the two main ones. But um, New Ireland, our next opponent for next week, looking really good against Australia. Yes, Australia kept it tight, and then Ireland sort of pulled away towards the end, much like South Africa did with Italy. And sort of Ireland scored 2 tries, and then Australia got one back, and then Ireland scored another try. Australia got a bit back, and then Ireland just pulled away. What are you taking from this game that kicked off very late at the Aviva, Jean, considering Ireland are our next opponent, and they are dangerous?
Yeah, I'm again, it's difficult to say. I'm gonna reiterate the fact that I think that Australia's players are extremely fatigued. They've had an exceptionally tough year. They've given some big performances. Um, there's arguments to be made about the uh, second second Lions test that maybe they should have won it. Um, but let's say they had the game against Fiji. They had the 3 Lions tests. After that, straight in, they played against the Springboks. They upset us on Ellis Park. They took us to the limit on DHL. So I think the players are really tired. That being said, I think Ireland is maybe starting to find form. Still some concerns for them. I know Tyke Byrne playing really good. I don't know if their front row stock is as good as they would like it to be. And their 10, I don't think they've solved their 10 problem yet. Are they going with the Leinster Vanderkunt um, Prendergast? Are they going with Crawley? Uh, yeah, I'm definitely not looking at Ireland as a team that's going to be a pushover. I think it's going to be probably one of the most intense matches that we've seen this year. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like for Australia right now, it's trying to just get to the end of the year and then being able to regroup for next year. There's a lot of guys shifting over from league to back to union with eyes on the Rugby World Cup. And certainly their fitness, as we saw with Joseph Swali, their fitness and their skills don't take too long to translate. I was worried with Joseph Swali that it might be a problem in terms of tackle, adjusting to the tackle rules of rugby versus the tackle rules of league, but he seems to have adjusted well. So, yeah, looking at Ireland, definitely a tough team to break down. They had their loss against New Zealand, and they've been marching on since then. Um, I think it's going to be a tough one for us to crack.
I think it's going to be incredibly competitive game. Ireland have been up and down. More recently, they lost to New Zealand in Chicago. They got a lot of criticism for their performance against Japan, and now they've defeated Australia quite convincingly. And it's weird. The Irish media seems very similar to the New Zealand media. They lose one game and it's like, throw everything out. Burn it down. And then they beat Australia and like, we're actually quite good. But I do like Ireland as a country and the people and the fellow podcasters we do have. So they're like New Zealand. They're one of the countries I quite enjoy. Temiko, are you looking forward to a very competitive game this weekend?
Yeah, I am. It seems like for the last couple of years, Ireland are kind of like our bogey team.
Mm.
It seems like our record against them is kind of like terrible in the last couple of games. I think out of 5, they might have won 3. So clearly we haven't beaten them in a while. So I'm thinking it's going to be a tough game. Judging from the match against Australia, you could see that their system was starting to click. Mac Hansen was kind of like, I think the right word is traitor, because damn, like how can you go like for a hat trick in 30 minutes against the country you were born in? So yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I think also when it comes to the 10 issue. So now I'm thinking about it. it kind of worked out this way because Prendergast was kind of the one they needed to kick all that bad, and it kind of worked out. But I still feel like Crowley is a little bit better. So they need to kind of like decide. So I think this is also the same for New Zealand. So I would say I'll divide players into like 3 levels, like low, medium, and high. And by high, I mean that you're more experienced and you've probably been doing this for a very long time and you're there. And low means that you just started your first cap yesterday. So I think a lot of teams, especially New Zealand also and Ireland, they have a lot of players that are more at the high end, and they never, when those high end players were still in the middle phase, they never kind of brought in someone beneath that to kind of always have that middle block. So now they only have the players that are kind of on their way out of their career, and the person that is coming in has barely the enough experience to kind of like patch that whole part. So I think Australia, what is this? Ireland is also somewhere there, but it was nice to see Mac Hansen. So maybe he could be like an answer for their 15th position, and maybe it could also but he translated well with Prendergast. So maybe there is something there, but I still don't think they're right.
think that it's very interesting because we talk about Pendergrass and Crowley a lot. I also agree with the panel and say like Crowley's better now. Pendergrass has got a higher ceiling. I feel like because it's Ireland, the Pendergrass has got better passing skills and he's been the heir apparent, sort of the Anakin Skywalker for a long time. I think they rushed him a little. I think that it's weird how they went sort of like Sexton and then who's off to say, oh, it's definitely Crowley. And then they went, okay, look, it's definitely Crowley, but we're going to give Pendergrass the whole Six Nations. And yes, people think Pendergrass is thin. Looks thin because he's very tall. He's got the Cohen Bosch curse where like you look like thin because your frame is so big. Crowley's more of a structured frame. His defense is actually much better. He's a little older. People think Crowley's old. He's not old at all. Crowley to me looks a more complete player right now. Pendergrass can become a complete player over time. I remember when I started watching rugby, uh, actually, I think the first games I really started watching, I think it was the World Cup, but then after that was like the Tri Nations, and I used to notice that Dan Carter was being molded into the New Zealand team. He would just come on the last 5 minutes, last 10 minutes, that type of thing. And he looked super thin. And over the years, we then saw Dan Carter bulk up. We also have to understand that I find it weird that the Irish media is so obsessed with Crowley and Pendergrass, and they never mentioned Frawley, who was like kind of in the mix and then thrown away because he had a bad game in South Africa or something. Somewhere along the line they lost him. I also think that there is value in a player. He might not be as good as Crowley and Pendergrass or the potential Pendergrass has, but I think Harry Burns has the enough ability that you can't throw him away entirely. Yes, he was low into the Prem last season. He came back, and then his brother again left, the older brother. I believe he's a Ross Byrne. So it makes sense to also keep Harry within the system. And the Iron Coat Farrell did mention that Harry played for the Irish second team, which also played this weekend. I think maybe if we have time, we can just look at that quickly, which is good. It's good to have a second team going as well. So I suspect a competitive game. The thing is that people would say, okay, if at whatever point Pendergrass plays, we could target him defensively. We could run big guys into his channel. Can we get to him before he passes the ball? Because if he passes the ball early enough, then it's a late hit. But if he passes the ball and we're fast enough, the referee could be like, well, the timing was reasonably good. The person was committed as what the referee called. Because I mean, you can't stop mid-air. So we'll see what Pendergrass does. That Pendergrass was able to play well against Australia because it came on and Australia were out of it. They were off their feet. And then that's when Pendergrass really thrives. So I feel that Ireland had an up and down season this season. I feel like their coach had one eye on the Lions and taking as many players from his Irish team through to the Lions. So I think France is probably our most competitive game. Italy was far more competitive than people thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be competitive. I think we can't discount Ireland. Yes, we're going in as slight favorites, but I make it slight favorites. Because I think like the French game, if we don't show up 100%, we could easily lose this game because Ireland might have had up and down form, but they still have quality players throughout the team. All right. The other game was of the Sunday. We almost never talk about the Sunday games. Was Argentina defeating Scotland, or shall I say Scotland finding a way to lose, being 21 points up. Oh my God. People talk about fraud watch. And I know the Northern Hemisphere people like to glaze what was the Scottish Finn Russell.
Finn Russell.
Like I think Finn Russell should be put on fraud watch. What the hell? Oh my God, John. The Scots, I like them, but and most of them are just us. What's going on?
So you spoke about Razor out. I think Townsend is that office is starting to feel like a
Yeah.
sauna.
Yeah, that timeline of give Townsend till the end of the World Cup, he probably won't win it, and then bring Fente in on the URC Rewind chat. I was like, can we just get Fente in now? And then people were like agreeing. Kalen from from the Interpro show was like, yeah, let's just get. He's Irish. He's not even Scottish. He's like, let's just get Francois Fente in.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, Scotland, and I get it. Finn Russell is a baller of a 10. And in a way, he's got the skills and the calm to be probably the best test 10 you could find on the planet. He can pass, he can swing, he can find space, he can kick, and he's consistent off the tee. He might not be the most physically impressive player, but he's certainly got an ability to read the game.
He's got a
Uh,
dad bod. Just say it. He's got a dad bod.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? It's similar to Marnie Libok. It's the trade-off you make, right? Is to say, well, we're gonna take somebody who's maybe not physically as bulked up or as big, but he's got distribution, he's got vision, he's got space. He can pull guys into the line. He can get the attack flowing.
Yeah,
Um,
his cardio is pretty solid despite like his shape. We're seeing
yeah,
this a lot in the NFL as well. Some of the more prominent some fly-offs, equivalent to fly-offs, quarterbacks, when they take the shirt off, they don't necessarily look like a professional like model and or athlete, but it's more sports science related to like you're not trying to do the Pierce Spiss thing and be a model. You're trying to do
yeah,
the Dwayne Vermeulen thing and be effective at whatever position you're in.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and I think there's just I still don't know what's going on with Scotland's defense. It feels like their whole strategy is to stay connected, and to me, that is not a solid plan because your defense needs to have teeth at some point. Your defense needs to have an element of attack. It needs to have an elephant of, or sorry, not an elephant, an element of being able to punch back while I don't have the ball. I need to be able to put you under pressure. And Scotland just feels like, well, we're gonna just stay connected. And it was so I was so thrilled to see against New Zealand. They did this sort of semi-rush where the main line stayed connected, but I think it was Tua Pilotu and one other guy had like this license to shoot out and kill the movement, and you could see it just killed New Zealand's creativity. Like they for a moment, I was like, this is New Zealand back in 2019, not being able to deal with the Springboks rush defense. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like in both their defense and their attack, they're reaching close to the limit of what Townsend can give. And it's time for someone to come in and say, okay, well, we're going to take some parts away, but we're going to keep the core parts, and then we're going to add different things, and that's going to take them to a higher ceiling. Because I don't think it's that big a matter of talent. It's definitely not a matter of talent. The arguably the only area for me where Scotland really is struggling is positions 1 to 3, and they've got a starting front row, and they've got a bench front row. And I mean, there's Italy. Italy is not exactly full of prop shaped people right now, but they just kicked the ass of probably the most scrum proud team in the world. So it's not that it can't be done. It's that maybe the guys who can do it are not there.
Yeah, it's interesting
But
for me because I was saying like keep Razor, but now I'm saying actually call Franco Smith now, because I mean Rassi had 2 years into a World Cup and he was able to. The old theory was you needed 4 years to prepare properly, but Scotland have the raw ingredients there. So if we get like a new idea, a new coach, a guy who's proven, who knows that country very well, who's coached Italy before, who's coached the test level before, the plan might have been Franco Smith in 2 years, but why not just call him up now and then use the sort of more Rassi type momentum of like a shorter shoot into a World Cup? Do you concur with that theory, Tim Nkosi, or do you want to see old Gregor Townsend keep plodding along?
I don't know. I think he has also reached his ceiling. Like with that amount of players for that amount of years, what has he done?
Yeah, 6 years.
Like,
Yeah.
like, show me on your resume. Like, show me. Did you win a Six Nations? Probably not.
Mm.
You probably just avoided the wooden spoon for all those 6 years. So, are you improving? The question is like, under his leadership, is Scotland improving, or are they maintaining a section where they're not really that good, but they're like almost there? Are they kind of just maintaining? We are almost getting somewhere, or are we actually going to get somewhere? So I don't know. I think he should go. I think
Yeah, to Townsend's
call
credit, he
Frank Boom.
has sort of developed them, but I think he's done what he can. So it's very similar to basketball. Years ago, the Golden State Warriors had a coach. He got them to sort of the playoffs, and then they swapped their coach, and then that guy was able to just bring a fresh idea with the raw material that was there to then push them over the edge, and then they won not just one championship but multiple championships. So credit to Gregor Townsend. I'm sure people watching this will say, "Oh, I'm just saying that because I support the Sharks and Gregor Townsend played for the Sharks for like a hot minute, and he's been rumored to take over from Plumtree. I would prefer he not take over from Plumtree because Plumtree is a New Zealand coach, and I always like the idea of going from a foreign coach to rather South African coach because we do have a lot of talented South African coaches within the system, and sort of a change of environment I was actually quite keen of Ackerman coming to Durban to take over at the Sharks. You have a more Afrikaans environment, and Ackerman having played for the Sharks and played lock and stuff like that. So we'll see what pans out. Are there
Run it, Jake.
other? Jake was there before. I think Jake needs to chill now. Jake, you've made enough money. um,
But I
Jake
think
is
he's that guy that's gonna come there and install discipline. Like Sia's not listening to anyone that has not won a World Cup. So I think Jake can tell Sia to do something. He's like, I've also won a World Cup. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I'm
look,
looking.
I think I would rather prefer the Sharks to get Eddie Jones before they get Jake White.
No, it's
Like
it looks
if the monkey paw has to
yeah,
curl,
yeah,
and it has to be like that. Rather get them Eddie Jones than
yeah.
Jake White. Honestly,
I joked a lot about Eddie Jones, but and I actually was really excited to see him take over at the Stormers, and then obviously just before, because he did really well at Japan, then he signed a deal to take over the Stormers, and then the English rugby union was like, no, we want him to coach England, so they threw money at him, including the Stormers. The Stormers got a payout, and that actually opened the door for Dobson. So weird how that panned out because Dobson was sort of like just coaching the Currie Cup team at the time. So I was joking about that. I'd like Stonehouse, but then also Adam Latham from the URC Rewind podcast and the Interpro podcast, he sort of explained to me because I was listening to the Interpro podcast once driving, and he said like he didn't like Eddie Jones. So I messaged him directly, and I was like, specifically, why don't you like Eddie Jones? Because I perceive Eddie Jones as sort of like just a joke character, and yes, to a degree, people like him in South Africa. Well, not so much anymore because he was a part of Jake White's coaching staff when we won the World Cup, which is another example of just bringing a fresh voice into the environment, which I say Rasmus does very well. Is he doesn't want his coaching staff to go stale, much like his playing staff. So he brings new ideas, new voices. That's the thing. Razor did well at this at the Crusaders as well. And I'm told him because he's very well versed of this, of like bringing Ronan O'Gara in just as a new voice and new ideas and stuff like that. Although I did watch an interview where Razor joked about like, yeah, we brought Ronan O'Gara in, but we had to buy a bus because he has like 6 kids, and Ronan O'Gara's like, I only have 5 children. What are you talking about? Um, but that's neither here nor there. So who do I want to take over the Sharks? Because somebody's going to take over the Sharks at the end of the season. I think it's probably Stonehouse. Stonehouse is back at the Pumas though, and then I don't know. I haven't thought about the Sharks in a while. Things are going back. We played 5 games, we won one, and we drew another one, and we lost 3. So in 2 weeks' time, we'll get back to that nightmare. I'm looking quickly as we speak at the Springbok, sorry, Springboks, the All Blacks 15, sort of the second team, which also in Europe, and they took on Uruguay. And just interesting that Dalton Papali'i was very much in the New Zealand team last season, the Blues captain, but he's playing 8 instead of blindside flank, interestingly enough. So he's on the fringes of the team. Falau Fakatava, the Highlanders scrum half, very, very good player, and it speaks to the quality they have that he's not even in the mix. Brandon Inor can't get into the team, but he's at least in the second team. In the positions that they're struggling, that I think they're very young locks again. Young lock on the bench, and then Josh Jacobs at fly half. Is there anybody on the bench? Brody McAllister? He could do a job at hooker if need be, and then Bradley Slater. He started, but sometimes you start your less experienced guys, especially in rugby. Before we move on to predicting this coming week's fixtures, any other thing? France beat Fiji. Fiji were kind of in it, and then France pulled away. It seems to be the trend these days. I wonder if Ross Brudier played for Canada, because Canada played Ross Brudier. And just quickly look at that. Ross Brudier, obviously the newly acquired Sharks scrum half, number 9, no Higgins. No, Ross Brudier in the team. One day we asked for some time off. Yeah. So those are the games that took place this weekend. Wales beat Japan. Check out the rap podcast for that. Wales needed to do that to stay in the top 12 of the rankings. Yeah, let's rather look ahead at this coming
Just one
weekend.
thing,
Yep.
just a shout out to Argentina
Mhm.
with probably the best
Mhm.
second half comeback that we've seen in a long time. If anybody doubts Argentina's seat at the big boys table, I will redirect you to the last 40 minutes of their match on Saturday, and you can argue with that beautiful, beautiful piece of rugby.
Yeah, I wonder
Santiago Carreras.
yeah, Argentina.
I feel like I wanted to mention it when we were talking about Argentina. I felt like
Mhm.
Finn Russell started the game, but
Mhm.
Santiago Carreras, when he came on, he just took over, and it's like, okay, now it's my game. Let me finish this off for you.
Yeah, Argentina currently ranked just below France at number 6 in the world rankings, above Australia, Fiji, Scotland, and Italy. So Argentina very much. I mean, they adjusted so well. I also thought that maybe they might fall off a little, having lost the Super Rugby franchise, the Jaguares, but they've adjusted their system, and they've got a very good feeder system in the sort of American tournament. I think it's called Super Rugby Americas or something like that. I'm not super well versed on that. So this weekend's fixtures. At 10 past on the Saturday, the 22nd of November, at 10 past 5 South African time, New Zealand are going to absolutely murder Wales in the Principality Stadium to get their frustrations out. Then later in the day, the big one for me, yeah, actually the main event, the heavyweight clash this weekend will be at 22 8 in the evening, Saturday, South African time, and that's good for me because I'm going to be out on Saturday, and I hopefully will get home in time to watch this game live. And then later in the evening, it is France versus Australia. So quickly, guys, Wales versus New Zealand. Temikosi, who you got?
I'm going with Wales. Previously,
Fantastic.
I'm with you here. I'm going with Wales. The New
Fantastic.
Zealanders have already disappointed me enough.
Sean, are you going with earlier you said Wales? Are you going to stick with that?
No, I am not going with that. I was called insane last week for telling you
Yeah,
guys I think the Poms might edge it.
yeah.
I don't think New Zealand will trip twice.
I'm gonna have to watch last week's episode because I thought I said England had a shot. But yeah, we'll go back.
So yeah, no, I think there will probably be a lot of blood in the streets.
Mm.
And I hope Wales will survive just enough for us to come along.
Okay, so our game, Ireland versus South Africa. Temikosi, your serious thoughts.
We won the last two games with 14 men. So taking that momentum into this game, I'm thinking we should, like, it's gonna be a tough game, but we should just edge them the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm also thinking South Africa by 5. Whatever happens, it's going to be a banger. Jean, your thoughts? Ireland versus South Africa at the Aviva. Are you there, Jean?
I am. It's a difficult one because a part of me wants to go with the Springboks trend of winning by 10 or more as
Hmm.
we've done. But then there's this little voice at the back of my head taking me back to 2021 and 2022 shouting, "We'll squeak it, we'll squeak it. Don't go by more than three." So yeah, it's difficult, and especially with Ireland being our bogey team, the last four matches we've only won one. Um, yeah, it's so difficult. But I think the boys will. I think that if there's a team to sort of bury it, it's the team that played against France, the team that played against Japan, the team that got us the record-breaking wins against Argentina and them. So yeah, I think the box by 10, eh? If we are in the lead going at if we are in the lead even by a single point going into minute 65, you best believe the Springboks are going to be chest out and it's going to be 100% pedal to the metal. We're not holding back now. You're going to have to run where we run. So yeah, I think box by 10.
Interestingly enough, there's actually an extremely competitive game on Sunday. So that's England versus Argentina. So I wonder if England are going to be sort of emotionally drained from their massive victory against New Zealand. Argentina are really good. And these are the types of games I like seeing because it's going to be it's there's no out and out favorite for me. Yes, England just did beat New Zealand, but Argentina also beat New Zealand earlier this year. So Tembinkosi, England versus I know you you really dislike England, but your honest opinion, England versus Argentina, it kicks off at 6 on Sunday.
I think England are probably going to edge it and probably going to win it. But the way Argentina have been playing, like you're saying, they seem like they've announced that they're a big team. And another way to cement that would be to beat England after what they did to New Zealand. But you never know with Argentina.
Your thoughts, John?
Uh, Argentina getting that win, the emotional value of that second half performance. Um, Combine that with, as you said, England being on a bit of a down from having played a massive game and deservedly winning the All Blacks. I'm gonna go with England by 5.
Okay, we'll see.
They've become a very clinical team.
Yeah. I'm interested to watch that game. Hopefully, I can actually watch the game. I think I might be out. So, guys, the last topic for today, we've run over our time. I'm going to get a mean voice note from producer Lee, similar to what the women's rugby 3 hours gets. So, yeah, we'll go with you first, Nkosi. Your thoughts on 3 of our players being picked, and who do you think will actually get the award this year?
I think it's very interesting because now I'm thinking, when I think about it and looking at them, I'm like, okay, uh, we have been rotating a lot this season. As much as I would like to give it to Ox, just by the amount of minutes played, I don't think he should qualify. I mean, not saying he didn't do his part. I'm just saying that Peter Steph seems like he's been the more consistent player in terms of most games. So I would, or maybe Max. No, I'm gonna go with Peter Steph.
Yeah, because the criteria is very interesting because I watched the different podcast where one of the panelists, I think Australia outside back, Drew Mitchell, he was talking about being on the panel and who else was on the panel and the fact that they only look at your test games, but it goes from, I think he meant like last year's end of year tour into this year's end of year tour as well. So factoring all that in, the amount, it's very difficult to pick. So I don't know. I'm not going to predict who they're going to pick. I'm just going to say personally, I want Ox to win because I'm actually a big fan of Ox. Yes, he plays for the Sharks, but I've been a fan of him for when he played for the Cheetahs as well. And it would be nice to see a front row forward get recognition. Pieter-Steph du Toit has won it multiple times. As much as I am also a big fan of Pieter-Steph du Toit, my relationship with Pieter-Steph du Toit obviously fluctuated when he came to us, and he was supposed to be our next major number 5, and then he went back to Cape Town. He's just like, but I'm from the Swaziland, so I have to go back. And we were all, as Sharks fans, we were all heartbroken, but I've gotten over that somewhat. I mean, I had to get over that. I'm double World Cup champion. And then obviously Marks, I don't think Marks has won it either. So we're gonna have to see who. So Drew Mitchell is saying like it's all these factors, like how did you play? Not so much how much you played, but how did you play in all the test matches? And Marks and all these guys have, and we've rotated quite a bit, as Demikos he said. So my pick, who are they going to pick? Who knows? My pick, Oxenchair. Jean, your thoughts?
Yeah, so before we go on the jump on the glory train, just a quick shout out to Lebebib being the the solo outsider in the
Who
room
is
of
that?
Biltong Smasher.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but
Lebebib. So yeah, look, Louis Bilberet is definitely in the conversation of top 5 wingers in the world. He's got insane speed, got a massive step on him. He's got good skill, good read, and definitely a danger and deserves to be there. However, there needs to be justice, and that justice is for Ox and Ox only. Give it to Ox. Marks can take it next year, and we all know in a World Cup year it belongs to Pieter-Steph du Toit. So that's the next 3 years sorted. Just call it in now. World peace will follow shortly at 11.
Exactly. And then the other pick, if I can get to it, is Breakthrough Player of the Year. Wait, what's going on here? Can you guys see this? I'm having technical issues again. So I'm trying to get the graphic up here for a moment. Oh, the internet. I've seen Kalen do this so much on on the USA. Okay. Ethan Hooker has been nominated for Breakthrough Player of the Year, and we'll look at the guys he's going up against as well. Temikosi, we know Lisa B doesn't want Henry Pollack to win it, and she's going to be very upset if he does. I don't think Fabian Holland's in with a. I don't think Fabian Holland is in to win it, but I understand why he's there. Joseph Soalihi, I think it's between Pollack and Ethan Hooker. Obviously, I want Ethan Hooker to win, Sharks player, Springbok player. But what are your thoughts?
I'm also along the same lines. It has to be between Pollack and Ethan Hooker. I'm gonna go with Ethan. Hopefully he's also on the team sheet for against Ireland, and maybe he can just do just enough to just edge Pollack over. Because otherwise, I see it going to Pollack because they love him.
I mean, Drew Mitchell did say
Or
that the
love to hate
panel,
him.
and I think Matt Phil's on there as well. He did say the panel was struggling to pick because so many teams were rotating. So that's also a factor. The other thing is that I just dismissed Fabian Holland's chances of getting it, but like considering the criteria has been the same all the years, it's like how you playing, like when Brody Retallick won it a few years ago, I was somewhat surprised because I don't think I followed rugby as closely back then, or I wasn't able to, and that type of thing. And I didn't realize Brody Retallick was just constantly putting in 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10, and that then builds up towards maybe some guy winning a game here, but then having a bad game the next week, aka the Finn Russell. Jean, your pick?
My pick purely out of country and spite would be Ethan Hooker. But I do think if we reference the podcast that you said with Drew Mitchell, if we look at last year up to now, then in terms of having the most performances, it could be Joseph Akusu Swali.
Mhm.
He's had the most performances. He's put in some very decent performances in that time. Henry Pollock is also a good shout. Going from starting for, I think he plays for Saints. Yeah, he plays for Saints, Northampton Saints.
Mhm.
So going from Saints straight to Lions into the England bench and being just a game-changing player. What they used to call back in the days X Factor players, is probably counting in his favor. If I had to say, I'd say Ethan Hooker, but I couldn't argue with Joseph Swali. I think he's had a good year. Fabian Holland, I cannot say that I've seen him that much. I've seen some highlights and everything, but nothing outstanding for me. I wouldn't feel too aggrieved with Henry Pollock getting it. He's certainly got talent, and he's got the ego to write the checks, and so far his body's been filling them. But yeah, we'll see what the panel decides. Look,
Yeah,
if we get both, I'll happily eat humble pie and have a sip of the best whiskey I have in my cupboard.
yeah, we give Henry Pollock's like a bit of stick just for the fun of it, really. Um, and now he's sort of dyed his hair and stuff. But like watching him last season play for Northampton in the Prem as well as in the Champions Cup, he is a vital player. He just adds a bit more flair at the end. Like most rugby players don't necessarily celebrate after a try. They more just like hug their teammates, and sometimes the teammates sort of pile on top of each other, like the Sharks did to Faisal Bata the other day, and he got injured. So stop doing that. Um, but he sort of does more elaborate stuff at the end, and obviously sort of a aesthetic type person, and like he's I just don't want to see him go like the Danny Cipriani,
Yeah.
what do you call it, Sabun Kosi way, where like a young guy becomes very famous very quickly. Because in the Northampton State system, which by the way, very well run team, they had Parsons ahead of him in the same position, and he took over from Parsons. Parsons had a few injuries here and there. Um, Also a guy who came through the England youth system. And then Pollock is just, yes, he's got a lot of flair, but he's also very effective. And what's clever about England is they keep playing him off the bench as like an impact. And we're just seeing, I love this evolution of rugby over the last 5 years of like you got to use your bench. And yes, sometimes you plan with the bench and then a random injuries happen, or a guy gets a red card, like a permanent red card, and then that sort of throws your plans up in the air in the manner in which you wanted maybe your bench to make an impact. But yeah, Pollock, I think Lisa B will be upset. I prefer Hooker, but I would be indifferent if you actually want it.
Look,
All right, guys.
he's definitely got a ton of talent.
Yeah, it's very good.
And he's also
So then,
good. Like it's also like an interesting character. It's like a new
mm,
breed of player. Like they they weren't as energetic about performing on and off the field up
yeah,
until
exactly.
now.
So we've got characters that sort of like make rugby a little more popular, broader than just general rugby people, and Sasha Feinberg and Ngobazulu does that. South Africa and maybe a few others that I can't think of. Any Pollock. I think Intermac is sort of a flair type player in that sense. So you need people like that. Even like Finn Russell. Like Finn Russell a bunch of stick in this podcast right now, but everybody in the pub loves Finn Russell because they're also functional alcoholics. And on that note, we've run too far. Um,
We are all
what?
sorry, producer Lee.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Um, like, subscribe, get in the notification bell. Henry Pollock for president. Oh, Henry Pollock fraudulent. You can
And
decide. Fun episode. Next week we'll have Lisa B back on with her thoughts. Yeah, and maybe even a guest panelist. We're working on it. Yeah, fun episode, guys. Great having you guys. It's the Oaks podcast. The Oaks podcast. When I go to Johannesburg, when I go to the Gauteng province one day, God willing, we're gonna organize a paddle tournament because we all play paddle now. So, guys. That's our podcast. Until next week, in Rassie we trust.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.